Hi everyone, welcome back to Needle Workshop. My name is Emily, and today I'll be doing a little vlog style video where I'm going to show you how you can take some of our patterns and adjust them to fit your measurements and also to fit whatever character or cosplay you're looking to make. Since we'll be reworking one of our older video tutorials, specifically the one for the schoolboy uniform shirt, because it's been requested a lot, I figured I could take advantage of that and make a new costume in our Needle Workshop roster of costumes. Specifically, I wanted to make Muichiro Tokito from Demon Slayer because it's one of my favorites, so I asked the girls if I could take the opportunity to do that, and then in the meantime make these two videos for you guys. So this one today we'll be looking over step by step how to take your measurements properly, how to make a mock-up and why mock-ups are very important, and then how to adjust the pattern based on that mock-up. So for a lot of newcomers, when it comes to sewing, mock-ups are a little foreign or misunderstood, I guess. And the reason for that is you'd think that a pattern, once it's graded, is meant to fit everyone since it's been graded, but it's only been graded to fit the most average body according to different regions. So ours are graded according to US standards, but for instance in Japan the standards tend to lean a bit smaller, so a large in Japan is not a large in North America. And I'm sure if you've bought costumes from East Asia, you know exactly what I mean. Even though grading is based off certain standards, most bodies deviate from those standards, and it's completely normal, and that includes my body. We're also going to adjust the patterns to fit the character that I want to make, because the sleeves deviate from what comes with the pattern. They're more like kimono style, but I'm actually going to do a veil sleeve style. Anyways, I'll get back to that later. And then the hakama pants are kind of a combination of two patterns that we have, which is exactly what I'm going to do. So yeah, that's what we're going to do today. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go put on my chest binder, because I'm going to be wearing one with the costume, so it's very important to take your measurements while wearing it, and that will definitely affect the way I adjust the pattern. So yeah, without any further ado, let's get started. All right, so here I am, chest binder. I am not nude. YouTube, do not demonetize me. It's a tank top. This, I think, gives me a bit closer to the silhouette of the character. Obviously, I have a very big chest, so it's hard to completely compress it. Like, depending on the chest binder and how much compression it does, you want to be really careful not to wear them for too long, because they can be bad. I think me and the girls had thought about making a pattern for this. If you would be interested, let us know in the comment section below. Maybe that's something to look forward to in the future. How do you take your measurements? So the three main measurements that you need are chest, and then there's waist, and then there's hips. You could go and take your shoulder measurements. You could also take neck to waist measurements. Those can be very useful because people with shorter torsos might need to make the pattern a bit smaller. Then you could take leg measurements depending on what you're doing. For my hakama pants, I'm just gonna make them the full length and then adjust the lengths once they're done. It's easier to know exactly, to kind of just pin how much to remove, and then remove it once the pants is done, than trying to measure it out. So let's go ahead. I'm gonna take out a notebook. So in my case, I'm gonna go chest, waist, hip, I'm gonna go shoulder, and I'm gonna go neck to waist. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be doing a combination of the men's and women's fit, because the difference, actually I should probably talk about that. So the main difference between a women's and a men's fit usually is twofold. Shoulder is a big one. Men tend to have broader shoulders. My shoulders wouldn't fit a men's fit in general, but that could be adjusted, because right now with the chest binder, I'm thinking that might be closer to a smaller men's fit than a regular women's fit, because when I said it was twofold, the other big one is chest. Women's obviously have a tendency to have a bigger chest. Not always the case, but they do have a tendency to have bigger chest. So I'm fearing that the women's fit won't be quite right with this particular silhouette right now. So maybe I'll do a combination of both. So let's go ahead and take our measurements. So for this, you'll need a measuring tape. I like centimeters. I don't know, inches is a very American thing and I don't particularly care for them. We have 94, which just goes to show how much it compressed it, because I'm usually closer to 101 and now we're at 94, so that's good. So obviously for chest, you want the widest part right here. For waist is the smallest part of your body, and this includes men's. Yes, you don't want to pull on it. You don't want to compress in any way, shape, or form when you're taking the measurement, and you don't want to suck in your tummy. So I would say 82, and then your hips are the widest part, so around the butt. And again, don't pull on it. Make sure to just, you know, keep it cash. About 104, 105. So let's go 104.5. So these are my main measurements. Now I need some extra ones just for myself because I've patterned quite a bit for myself. So the neck is here. It's where your neck pit is. That's the measurement you want. So you want to go here to waist, about here, and that's about 37 centimeters. And then your shoulder, you want to come up to your neck, and then usually it's really like where the bone is right here. That's where you want to take your measurement. Though Muichiro has a drop shoulder, so actually taking the men's might be a good idea, because if they have broader shoulders, that means the shoulder will naturally drop on me. Something to keep in mind. 13. So yeah, those are all the measurements I'm gonna need for now. Again, there's a huge variation of measurements you can use for patterning. It really depends on the costume you're making and how much modifications you want to do prior to making the mock-up. But from here on out, I'm just gonna use my mock-up and see how I need to adjust it to make any additional kind of adjustments to my pattern. I guess we'll move on to patterning now. Alright, so next part we'll be looking at our patterns and adjusting them according to the measurements that I took earlier. I'm actually going to do this in two parts. I'm going to start with the pants first and then move to the shirt. The reason for that is I'm going to make the mock-up for the pants first because they take a lot of muslin and they're big like panels of muslin, and then I can easily reuse that to cut out the muslin from my shirt. So I'm going to be saving a bit of fabric by doing it in that order. We're going to do the pants first and then we're going to come back and do the shirt a bit later. So let's take a look at our pants. So my reference here is Hakama pants. Honestly, any of them all have the same measurement standards, so any of the measurement guide can help. For this model of pants, the best is to go by your waist. So my waist is 82, so I'm somewhere between a large and an extra large. I think large is a bit closer. I mean, it's a 4 centimeters off, so I think I'm going to use large. So the best way to adjust the waistband is you can add what's missing at the sides, and in this case that would be 4 centimeters. But what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take my waist measurement, add 2 centimeters, maybe 3 centimeters. I'll go with 3 centimeters of ease. So I'll make sure my waistband total is at 85, that the pants waist matches that. So here I have my extra wide pants, Hakama pants, which are not the proper model because these ones have a wrap tie, which is not what we want, and like an open side, which is also not what we want. So we're gonna kind of merge them with the Hakama pants that come with the bundle that is this one. But because Muichiro's are a bit different, for instance, there's no cuff, so I don't need the cuffs, but I also want them to be wider, and they're a bit different as in they have one pleat at the back, which is more like traditionally what a Hakama pants has, which this one doesn't. It has 2. They're much wider and they have 2 pleats at the front. So it would match the front, but not quite the back. And I find the pants maybe are a bit too tapered for what I'm looking for. So this is closer, but this has 1 pleat at the back, 3 pleats at the front. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove one of the pleats at the front. So that actually is super easy. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this section and we're gonna bring it in, no, too much in, to this other notch. It's essentially like you were closing the pleat. Yeah, don't worry about all this. It's kind of like if you were closing the pleat, so now there's no more pleat here. There's no need for a notch there, so let's remove all that. So yeah, by eliminating that one pleat, you've ended up with only 2 pleats, which is what I want. I want 2 pleats and 1 pleat at the back. Now what we want to do is obviously we want to close this here. So I'm going to use these as a reference. They also have my notches for my pockets, which I want. I'm actually going to take this whole pair of pants, minus all the things in the middle that I don't need. I'm going to take all of this. I'm going to bring it here, and then kind of place it roughly how I think it's supposed to be. So obviously this doesn't quite work. This, perfect. We don't want this one. Don't want this one. We don't want this one. We don't want this one. Okay. So what we're gonna do here is I think I'm gonna take this one. I'm gonna bring it out a bit. This to me still isn't quite right. This should be more like this. And this whole section should be coming out to be a bit more straight. So if you're wondering, well, what are the rules to what I'm doing right now? There isn't any. It's really like just kind of eyeballing and kind of trying to gauge how you want to merge the two together. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm kind of going to bring my pair of pants and merge it together, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so I have my 2 sides here. I'm gonna bring in my, I don't have my waistband here. Okay, let's open up my waistband. All right, so here I have my waistband in large, which obviously is not quite the right size, but we have the placement of all our notches. I think the notches, sorry, the placement of the belt loops, I'm gonna change for this character. So I'm just gonna delete them because I'm gonna change them completely because his are a bit different than the other ones. He has like 2 very prominent ones at the front. I could probably just add those in. Actually, I'll keep them. I'll keep them as is, and I'll probably just add 2 more in the front, or I'll change them all together, but to be determined later. So what I want to do here is I know for a fact that my waistband is probably too small as is. So let's measure it. Now, when you're measuring it, what you want to do is you want to start from this part, the extension, to this end, which is 82, which is supposed to be closer to 83 minus 1. 83 minus 1 because there's 1 centimeter here to take account for. So 82 centimeters long. That is exactly my waist actually, but that's not good. You want some ease. So what we want to do here is add a bit of ease, which is 3 centimeters for me. So that would be fine, but we need to know where you want to add them. This here is your center front. This here is your side notches. And this would be your back. The closure is at the back. Yeah. So if we want to add 3 centimeters, we want to add them equally in 4 parts. What am I doing? No. It's 3 divided by 4, 0.75. So we're going to go in increments of 0.75. So we're going to add 0.75 here, 0.75 here. Same thing on the other side, 0.75 here, 0.75 here. And I think my belt loops are too far back here, so I'll probably have to, like, essentially I want to add another set. And I want them to be closer, but it's going to depend on my belt buckle. So I'll just leave them at B for now, but this is something I'm going to have to change. So the total length here is 85. So we want to make sure that matches up with what we have here. So we're going to measure out our total length. This is, so you don't want to measure what's in the pleats. That's a 1 centimeter seam allowance because it lines up to the center back here. So this here, so you just want, what the hell? No, I have it. Just this here is, actually I'm just gonna bring it up. Then you want this one. And then imagine you have it like kind of like this. Control join. So the total for this minus 1 cm, because there's 1 centimeter here that we need to account for, is 25.26. Let's say 25.3 minus 1, 24. Now let's get the measurements for this one. Again, here it's very important not to take into account your pleated sections. So I'm just gonna add some points here to better calculate that. So in this case, it would be this tiny little piece here. So this piece here. Then this one. Like a shadow dart here. Let me just remove some points that sincerely should not be there. Okay. So this is my total length. I'm gonna cheat this a little bit. Look, if there's a few millimeters difference, it's not a big deal in my opinion. I don't know. That might be a controversial take, but a few millimeters difference is okay. Too many millimeters difference is when it starts to get problematic. So 26.6 minus 1 plus 26.6 minus 1. Now you go times 2 to get the whole circumference, and we need 85. Wow, we're so far off. Why is it so big? Okay, so we need to adjust clearly because this is way too big. So if you go minus 85, okay, and then you divide by 4. Because you have to divide by 2 because it's only half the pattern, and divide by 2 because there's 2 side seams, the front and the back. So divided by 4, 3.7. Hey, that's not so bad when you divide it like that. So 3.7. So let's see if I just do this. I think that works. So I'm just gonna take this and this. All of this, please. There you go. And I'm gonna move it in a little bit. So it's, ooh, no, that's looking a bit weird. I just wanna smooth it out a bit. Oops. Oh my God, can you stop that? Just need too much. Just need to move forward. Actually, in theory, yeah, I don't need this piece anymore. It was just a guideline. So yeah, we can remove these pieces. They were just guidelines. All right, so now it should be 85. Let's bring this down a bit. It's gonna look a bit awkward. That still needs to me a bit of finessing. All right. So now this total should match up with the waistband, which is 85. And I have finished all my pieces. The one thing I want to keep is these pieces, which are bucket and belt loops. The belt loops, I want 2 more, so I'm just gonna add that in. What's the measurement here? 9. Okay, 9. So I'm trying to take this and go 1, 2, because we want 2 more. Yeah, 1, 2. There you go. So I'm gonna have 6 belt loops on this one instead of 4. And there you go. The pattern is done. So we're gonna move on to the shirt one. Okay, so let's take a look at the shirt. So this is the shirt I'll be using. Obviously, I'll need to do a lot of adjustments, especially the sleeve, though I will be sewing one regular sleeve in for the video tutorial. Ultimately, I'll be removing it and putting in the sleeves that are appropriate for Muichiro. Let's take a look here. You have the measurements on the website. This is prone to change. Right now, I have the female and male body measurements on one. But I'm gonna focus on the female body measurements because I think in general those fit better on me. So I'm gonna go with the female one. So the closest to what I need right now, the chest is naturally gonna be too big because I ended up compressing it quite a bit. It falls somewhere between a small and a medium, but my waist and hips would actually fall much higher. So I'm gonna take a look at that instead. So what I think I'm gonna do is I'm looking at the large here. So I have 82 centimeters for my waist. Large only has 78, so it's a bit too small. I'll definitely need to adjust that, but that's actually fairly easy to fix. So I'm gonna show you how to do that. The hips are fine. We have 107, mine are 104.5, so there's no problem there. That will fit perfectly fine. Now the big discrepancy is obviously gonna be in the bust. We have 103 here and I'm actually closer to a 94. Now I don't want to take the upper part of small medium and just paste it on the lower part of large. The reason for that is the shoulders for small medium won't fit me properly because I'm generally a large, not a small, and as you grade down the shoulders get smaller because smaller people tend to have, well, less shoulders or smaller shoulders, obviously. So this is what we're working with. I'll keep this open as a point of reference, but I will be working in Illustrator. So the first thing I'm gonna adjust, actually, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and adjust my waist. I want to keep the dart at the back. I find it looks nice. It helps make it a bit more fitted, because what I could have done is probably just remove the dart and then end up with a fairly good fit for the waist. But I like the darts. I think they look nice at the back. I think they help make the whole piece a bit more fitted. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to add what I need at the sides. I'm going to go calculator. So my waist here is 82. The original one was 78. So you go minus 78. So there's a 4 centimeter difference. So now keep in mind that this and this is only half the total length you're adjusting, because you'll be adjusting it on the left side and right side. So what you want to do is we want to add it here and here. You want to divide it by 2 first, so you get half, which is this, and then divided by 2 again for the left and right side. So it's 1 centimeter total that we want to add to our piece at the waist. I mean, we're adding a total of 4, but we're adding 1 centimeter at each side. So usually you just want to grab this and go kind of like, and then move it out like this. You don't want to move the points here and here. And there you have it. Honestly, it should work perfectly fine just like that. Now let's take a look at our shoulder. And the total measurement on this is 16 centimeters minus 13. So it's already a bit longer than what I probably need. But I think I want to add a bit more for a bit more of a drop shoulder. You don't want to modify the measurement that is here, because it matches the one with your sleeve. So what we're gonna do is we wanna keep the same general direction. So I'm gonna extend that And then I'm gonna add, I think I'm gonna add 1.5 centimeters. I'm gonna put this in red so it's a bit more clear. So we wanna take this point here and move it like this. Now, actually, let me see how much. This is 15.73 cm, and if I move it, it's 15.4 cm, so you lost just a little bit. So we're gonna bring it up by about 0.2 cm, and there you go. That should give me roughly what I need while keeping the same measurement here. So I'm gonna do exactly the same thing on the other side. It's looking, it's looking a little rough here. So you can always, like, obviously adjust this a little bit as needed. I think it looks a bit rough, a bit too rough for my liking. There you go. It's not perfect, but I'm sure it'll look fine. Because keep in mind that there's a dart here, so once it closes, this whole section is gonna like shift back a little bit. That's why it looks a bit awkward, but it's okay. So I did roughly the same modifications on both sides, which is really like the key here. This goes up to about the neck pit, maybe a little bit lower. So let's just see to the waist how much this gives me. 37, and I had 37 actually, so this looks okay. So I don't need to change it. I think that's gonna be all the modifications I'm doing for the shirt itself. Like I said, very minor. You don't want to touch the welt pocket unless you want it bigger, but that's very tricky to adjust. So unless you're very comfortable with patterning, I wouldn't recommend it. Now, I'm gonna have one sleeve pattern like this, and obviously one sleeve pattern is gonna be completely different to get the shape that I want. So I wanna bring you back to a few videos we've done before. So for Muichiro, you can do a kimono style pattern for the sleeve, which we've done a full video on how to make. So you can go check that out if that's what you want. In another video, I roughly indicated that you could do it into a bell sleeve, which initially I thought it was, but it's actually more of a kimono sleeve, but I prefer a bell sleeve. So I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna go and get my bell sleeve in a bit more detail here. I just find that the bell sleeves flow more nicely in different poses, and they trick the eye into thinking that it's a kimono sleeve, but it is not. I want to make that very clear. I understand that it is not. Let me show you how I'm going to do that. So I'm going to copy both of my sleeve pieces, which is this one and this one. I'm going to flip this one, enter. Okay. So what's really important when you want to modify a pattern like extensively is to make sure to remove your seam allowance from your pieces. Personally here, I don't want to modify this area whatsoever, like the armhole area. And the armhole area that I don't want to modify is without seam allowance, because that's the one that matches the armhole here. And I wanted to keep matching that even when I'm done with all my modifications. Object path, offset path. You want to offset by 1 cm. And it's 1 cm because at Needle Workshop our seam allowance is 1 centimeter. Okay, actually, I don't need this notch. So let's get rid of this. Oops. And this. And this. You don't need these ones because I'm going to modify it so heavily that this won't be necessary. But I do need these notches. So I want to make sure to move this in where it's supposed to be. Is this spot? Yeah, it's positioned properly. And then that might be a bit off actually, yeah. Close enough. It's a bit off, but not by a lot. Okay, so what I'm gonna do here is it's a little weird, but you want to, now we can, for now, regroup everything. You want to match it up right here to here to get a continuous line. I want my seam for this piece to be right underneath the arm, which is this notch here. This is a jacket style sleeve, so it's a two piece, like a piece at the top and a piece at the bottom, and the seams are on the side, but we don't want seams on the side. In this case, I want seams underneath. So this right here, actually, I'm gonna remove this. It's gonna start where my anchor is. I'm gonna split this piece in two. I know it looks super weird right now, but don't worry about it. It'll look nice once we're done. You wanna take this piece and bring it to the side. Okay. So my piece looks like this right now. It looks a bit weird, but that's not a big deal. What's important is that your armhole is pretty much a smooth, continuous line of what your shape originally was. So what you can do here is, well, we have to figure out the length we want. I actually didn't check. So from here to here, what length do we want? We're gonna measure that out right now. I wanna measure roughly from here, though I did say I wanted a drop shoulder, so that might be wrong. Muichiro has them pretty long, but I still don't want them too long. Actually, sometimes it's better to go in this direction, and then you kind of see how far down this goes. I want it to like he doesn't wear a Haori or anything on top, so it might be good. And slightly dropped. Roughly 64 centimeters is what I'm getting. So we're gonna come here. We're gonna go from the top, and we're gonna go roughly 64 centimeters. Then what you do is you can delete this. You can delete these lines, you don't need them anymore. And then these go straight down. Oops. Make them match this. Control, join. Now my grain line here is at an angle, which is wrong. It's gonna be straight down. I wasn't wrong before, but now things aren't quite, with this style, you wanna go straight down. I might actually also modify the sleeve head, but I'll see after I do my mock-up how I want to modify that. For now, I'm gonna keep it as is. Now, this is a straight sleeve, but it's not a bell sleeve. A bell sleeve, essentially you need to kind of make it wider at the bottom. So how wide do we want it? Well, we want it to look almost like a kimono sleeve, like a pretty wide one. So if we look here, I think something kind of like this, where it's, do you want to put it at 100? We'll put it like at 100. I like that, at 100 at the hem. Let's measure out our current hem. Our current hem is 37. So you want to go 100 minus 37 and you get like 63. So what we want to do is we want to add 63, but you don't just want to add it to the sides like this. Usually what you want to do is you want to cut your sleeve into many pieces and then like split it open. So what we're gonna do is exactly that. We're gonna remove everything because it'll be easier in this case. Because I'm on a computer, you don't need to remove everything if you're not on a computer. So we're gonna cut here, and then in increments of maybe 2 cm or so. 2 cm? No, 2 cm seems not enough. Maybe 4 cm. I'm gonna go copy F and then one. Copy F. And we'll do the other same on the other side. All right, so this is how many splits we want. This is how you split it. Obviously, if you're doing this flat, you're cutting from here all the way up to roughly here. But you're keeping the little part at the top like still together as much as possible. So now that we have all this, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have 9 cuts. 63 divided by 9 It gives me 7. Oh, nice round number. We love that. Okay, so we want to add 7 cm in between each of these crevices is what we want to do. Since I need a rough idea of how much to add, I want to add, it was 7, right? 7. But we're going to go roughly 3.5 this way. Because I'll go 3.5 the other way after with the other side, just to keep my middle straight. And then you start rotating. There you go. That roughly lines up here. Okay, so that was 3% on this side. So we want to go 3% on the other side as well for a total of 6% on every single other sleeve. Other way. -3. There you go. And then you grab all of these and you continue. It's the same idea. Oh, no, we want to go positive. But since we did 3% on both sides for a total of 6, you want to add 6. It's just to keep this part straight. Like that's my grain line, so I want to keep my grain line straight. Okay, all right, this is so wide right now that you can't even see this section. That's pretty much it. What we want to do now is we want to kind of reconnect it all together. If you're doing it flat, it's actually super easy to like round it out and make sure that it's a smooth curve and not like this janky. I have finished my bell sleeve. I've already moved all of my pattern pieces to put them on the printing template. So now I have to turn around and there it is. I have the original sleeve too because I'm gonna need it. And here we have our big bell sleeves. The one thing I have not done yet is add some seam allowance. So we go in, actually just go here and then go path, offset path. We just want 1 cm. I don't know why it's going both ways. Ignore that. We don't want this one. We just want this one. And once I have it printed, I'll just extend my notches. It'll be easier. And I'll probably honestly smooth out the edge here a little bit. But I'm gonna have to test it out on my mock-up and see if it works properly. And that's another reason why mock-ups are absolutely quintessential. That pretty much wraps up the patterning section. I know it's not super clear, but it's always like kind of, it always super depends on what you're doing. And sometimes it's a lot of just finagling around and testing and eyeballing. And that's why ultimately a mock-up is always super important because you can never know 100% for sure if it's going to work out unless you've done this several times before or you're more familiar with a certain pattern or a certain design, which obviously very professional seamstresses and patternists who've done this for God knows how long, or like they know, they can see and they can be like yes or no. But ultimately you still need to test out with a mock-up. Super standard industry stuff. But even for yourself at home, if you want to make sure it fits properly, you got to make a mock-up. So now that I've done all this finagling around and eyeballing, I'm going to go ahead and make 2 mock-ups and make sure that they work out. All right, so mock-up for the pants has been done. So the opening is at the back. It looks a bit janky right now because it's only holding with pins, but once it has everything in, I think, like the zipper in, I think it'll be fine. So I think they look pretty good. Obviously they're way too long, so I'm gonna need to mark where my ankle is and then remove that from my pattern. I also need to add a belt loop placement. I think 2 here will be perfect because that's approximately where he has them on his. I like the front pleats. I like the 1 back pleat. I think it's fine. I am thinking that maybe as wide as his pants are, I think maybe there's too much, like you could see it here how it kind of creates like this like extra floof here. So that's something I want to remove so it's a bit more, actually, I'm hesitating because I kind of like it. It does, I find make my waist look a bit smaller than if I put it too much in, you know? So I think I'll just remove a little bit. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a pin here just to vaguely show how much to remove. This will help me when I modify my patterns. So when I modify my patterns, I'm gonna do it flat on the table since I already have them. I think something like this is the general vibe, and then I'm gonna remove a little bit at the side as well, all the way down, because I just think this would look better on me. I find they look a little, just a wee bit too high. So let's see, now I'm gonna mark where my ankle is. So my ankle is about here. So about this much. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut them, like cut my muslin, just to make sure that the length is good. But I think that's everything. There's some adjustments to make with the pocket too, but otherwise it does work. So when I remove here, I have to remove it in my pocket as well. And my pocket needed to be extended a little bit here, because it wasn't designed, the pocket originally, to be with these specific pants, because this is a combination of two pants, so they need a bit of adjustment. Otherwise, I think they look pretty good. They look pretty much like the ones he has. And I'm looking at myself in the mirror. I think I'm happy with the way it looks. So I'm gonna go ahead, make my modifications on my pattern, and then move on to the shirt. Okay, so here's the mock-up for the shirt. I have already made some significant adjustments to it. This side has not been modified and this side has been modified. So you can kind of see side by side what works and what doesn't work. So the big one for me is there's too much fabric, specifically here. So what I decided to do is I'm going to remove some of that extra amount of fabric into the armhole. And just for context, I did the same thing on the back side. That does create some other problems. As you can see, because I brought this up like this, this whole area down here has shifted and it needs to stay straight. Now, another thing to take into consideration is obviously because I'm removing here, I'm removing a lot of armhole. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna reposition my armhole to essentially not lose it and keep it exactly the way it was. Though it's gonna be a bit weird, we're gonna trace down our original pattern and then do all of our modifications from there, and always keep the original one as a reference point. Now for the sleeve, this is what a bell sleeve is. If it was a kimono sleeve, it would kind of jut out here and then go back down. I think what I'm gonna do is, well, one, I don't think it's big enough. I actually want it a lot bigger. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add probably, measuring out like this would be about 5, for a total of 20, maybe 25 to 30 centimeters. But if I wanted, I could kind of cheat it and jut it out like this and then bring it like that, where it looks more like a regular kimono sleeve. But I really don't want that, because what happens is I find it bunches up here and that's not something that I particularly like. So I'm gonna go ahead I'm going to go do all those modifications flat, and I'm going to run you through it. And obviously this is just the modifications I want to do for my costume, for my body with the chest binder on, but yours might be completely different. So it's always important to take those things into consideration when working, that whatever works for one person might not work for another. So yeah, let's go do that. First things first, we're going to trace out the modifications we need on our muslin so we can then trace it out onto our original pattern. This will be used as a guideline only. I'm going to trace all around my lower section of the pattern, making sure to stop where my guidelines are. We're going to close the section marked out before continuing our tracing of the upper section of the pattern. I'm then going to re-extend my armhole since I don't want to change the armhole of the sleeves. I'm also making sure to properly straighten out the center front. I'm making sure to use my original pattern to mark out all the location of my buttons, buttonholes, and welt pocket. I'll be doing the same set of modifications to the back bodice piece. At certain points, I will make sure to refer to the modifications done on the front bodice piece to make sure that everything matches up properly. Similar to our initial modifications, you usually want to make sure that whatever modifications you're doing to the front is repeated at the back to keep the piece properly fitted, balanced, and symmetrical. So here's my second mock-up, and I'm much happier with it this time. Now there are obviously a few things here. I did not put in the collar because I already knew it fitted just right. And before putting in the sleeves, I figured I would give it a shot and make sure that I like the bodice, because if I have to rework it anyways, I don't want to have to put in the sleeve for no reason. If I wanted it to be more framed around the chest, I could either add darts here, or you could add one right here. I don't want it to be overly framed because I'm trying to hide my chest as much as possible. So I think this is a good in between, having it somewhat more fitted while remaining a bit loose. The back looks like this. We do have darts at the back. It helps keep this area like a bit more framed. And most of the characters wear Haori, so you don't see it. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and put in at least one sleeve just to test out my new sleeve. So I'm gonna go do that and then I'll be right back. I'm back with the sleeve on. So here it is. I think I really like the shape on this one. It kind of mimics the shape of a kimono, but without it being an actual kimono. So there's less bunching up at the top here, which is what I like. I am seeing some issue here. You see how the seam has a tendency to run towards the front? So I'm gonna have to fix that and even it out so that the seam kind of stays at the bottom. And in terms of length, I like it. I think it's good because the original design is like a suit jacket. There is a lot of crown gathering. So when you disperse it properly, it's not like you see gathers, but it gives like a little bump like that, which is completely normal. That's actually what you want for a suit jacket. But for this type of sleeve, I don't think it's necessary. Like, the reason it exists is to add space for your biceps, but because this is so big, there's tons of space for the biceps, so you don't need it. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove that, fix my seam, and then I'll be done. I'm gonna go ahead and finish up the whole piece and kind of do a little reveal, since like I'm guessing after watching all this vlog it would be nice to show you what it looks like done. I'm gonna go ahead, finish up what I've been working on, then come back and show you the two pieces once they're done. All right, everyone, so this definitely wraps up the video for today. This ended up being way longer than I anticipated, but I really hope it was helpful. If you like this kind of content, as always, give it a big thumbs up, leave a message in the comments, subscribe, you know the jazz. Also, you can check out more of our content on our different social media platforms. You'll find the link to all of these in the description box below. As always, good luck with your projects, guys, and see you next time. Bye bye.